it is a symptom of a broken culture. Our culture has not focused and prioritized the family in a way that we should. As goes the family, so goes the city. And as goes the city, goes the county, and so goes the state and the country. The family is the fundamental basis of society.
Welcome to the Empower Podcast, the show where we discuss big ideas with leaders and change makers as we work to create a Mississippi where everyone can rise. This is Grant Callen. Thank you for joining us. You know, as we wrap up this year, I want to pause and say thank you. This has been a remarkable year of conversations marked by diverse perspectives and thoughtful discussions with leaders who genuinely care about the future of our state. And I'm deeply grateful to every guest who joined us this year and each of you who tuned in. Today's episode will be our final episode of the year, but we'll be back in January with full coverage of the legislative session and the big policy conversations shaping Mississippi in 2026. My guest today wears many hats, usually a cowboy hat actually, and brings a wide range of experience to the table. He's an attorney, a cattleman, a tree farmer. He's an ordained Baptist minister, husband and father to four. For a decade, he represented his community in the state legislature. Then in 2018, he was appointed and was later elected to serve as Mississippi's Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce. And now he's running for governor. That man is Commissioner Andy Gipson. Commissioner, welcome to the Empower Podcast.
Well, thank you, Grant, for having me. It is great to be with you. You know, we've been following your work for a long, long time, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and visit with you. It means a lot.
Well, honored to have you here. And before we get into the meat, let me just ask you, we're at Christmas season. I know you got one son who's out in Montana. Will he be home for Christmas? Will everybody be with you?
Well, he won't be home for Christmas. We went out to see him for Thanksgiving, actually, but he should be back here in January, maybe after the first of the year. Leslie and I have four children: Joseph, Benjamin, Abigail, and Sarah. And Joseph's a ranch foreman out west on a 26,000-acre ranch in Montana, living the Yellowstone dream, I tell folks, and it's amazing. Benjamin is a student at Mississippi College. He'll be home, of course, for Christmas, and we're thankful for him. He's 20 years old this year. And then we have two daughters, Abby and Sarah. Abby is 17, just turned 17, and Sarah is 14. And our girls are not going anywhere. They don't ever want to leave the farm, all right? They want to stay here forever and ever, amen. But we're going to have a lot of great family time, and my family and Leslie's family will have different get-togethers. You know how it is. Time is over with, we'll have 3 or 4 Christmases. It's,
that's great.
Great celebration of Jesus' birth.
Well, so I was going to say, do you have any special Christmas traditions in the Gipson family?
Yeah, we do. We have a little church on our farm that my dad actually built. It's a chapel. And on Christmas Eve lately, we've started opening up for the community, and we'll have a Christmas Eve service. Now, a lot of people do their Christmas on Christmas Eve, so it's not everybody that can come to that. But for those who do, it's a candlelight service. We'll do it right at dark and just have a very small setting and remember and reflect on the true meaning of Christmas. So that's something we do, whether it's just our family or the broader community. That chapel will seat about 100, and the problem is finding a place to park when it's cold and wet in December like it is right now. But we do that, and then we'll wake up early Christmas morning, and Leslie always bakes something that smells real good, homemade cinnamon rolls in the oven, and bacon and eggs, a traditional Christmas breakfast. That's kind of our Christmas morning at the Gipson home.
Well, you have been in elective office for 17 years. What prompted you in that first election to run for the legislature?
That's a great question, and it's something I've been reflecting on a lot lately. Leslie and I had been married for, 5 years at that time. We had just had our first 2 children, our 2 boys. They were about that high. They were 2 and 3 years old. And I began to look around and see in our community the need for focus on their future, okay? And I wasn't seeing that in our elected leaders at the time. Not knocking anybody, but I decided on the new year in 2006 that I was going to get more involved in my local community. So I went to the local economic development meeting that we have in Simpson County. I grew up in Rankin County. Brandon's my hometown, but I moved to the farm in Simpson County and went out there to that economic development meeting in January of '06, maybe February, and really began to get involved in the community. I'm a big believer, if you're going to make a difference, get involved locally and make a difference there. Over the course of several months, leaders in that community came to me and asked me if I would run for the legislature. And I said, well, I will. I said, I'm going to have to pray about it. And Leslie's going to have to be on board with it. And I'm going to have to find out if I can make a living doing it. And those three things line up, and I will. And to make a long story short, we went off and prayed about it for a whole week at a Bible conference at the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, Illinois, just to get away and to try to hear from the Lord if this is something He wanted me to do at this particular junction. And the answer was yes. And so I came back, put my name in the hat, ran against a longtime incumbent in a Republican primary. And then I had two other challengers. I had a primary in '07, and then a runoff, and then a general election. By the time that year was over, I had plantar fasciitis. I had walked so many, knocked on so many doors, seen so many people. But the answer is, it is our boys, our children, and now our girls. That is the reason why I got in and am still in public service, to try to make a positive difference in the life of our next generation of this state now and for the future that our children will inherit. The state that they inherit will depend on the actions that we take today or the inaction that we fail to engage in. And so trying to make a positive difference, really felt led to do that in the legislature, and God bless my efforts there. And then continuing that as Agriculture and Commerce Commissioner has been a great joy and a great privilege, and it's something I don't take for granted, but I still want to make a positive difference for the future of this state.
Well, so I think about that time, that decade really, you spent in the legislature, and it was an honor to get to work with you on a number of key bills. But when I think of your leadership in the House, I can't think of, honestly, anybody else that carried more bills. Yeah. You were one who, for a lot of different committees, those that you chaired and those you didn't, you would take to the well and would just lead on important legislation. Why did you take it so seriously? Why did you like to dig in and do the work that comes with being a lawmaker? And maybe what are you most proud of from that decade you spent in the House?
I have nothing but great memories and reflections on serving in the legislature as far as policy making goes. When it comes to politics, that's another matter. Politics is a nasty business. But when it came to making policy and getting things done, that's what I was focused on doing, because I wanted to leave Mississippi better than I found it. And so I remember I was there. Look, I served for 4 years under the horrible Democrat leadership and that last term under Speaker Billy McCoy. And then I was so thankful to be able to nominate my friend Speaker Philip Gunn to serve as the first Republican speaker. And we, from that point forward, he told me, he said, I need somebody who's got a backbone, who'll take up the big bills, the big issues, and actually get it done. And I said, well, I'm your man, because I want to make a difference. And so I was appointed chairman of the Judiciary B Committee, and a lot of work in terms of public safety, a lot of work of pro-law enforcement, supporting our first responders out there. And as it turned out, a lot of work in our Second Amendment, our gun rights. We were able to rescue those and restore those back from the hands of then Attorney General Jim Hood, who had written an opinion that you had to have a state-issued license to own a gun in Mississippi. What a ridiculous thing. So we restored our Second Amendment freedoms. I'm really proud of that. House Bill 2 was where we got that done. And then the most important work that I was able to be a part of in the legislature, I would put it at the subject of House Bill 1510. That would be the bill. Some folks, a few years earlier, we had passed a 20-week abortion ban. I think that was House Bill 1400. And then in 2018, which was my last year in the legislature, those same folks came to my office, the pro-life leaders in Mississippi, and said, we want to take another step in protecting the sanctity of human life, protecting babies, and ending abortion in Mississippi. And I said, what you got in mind? They said, well, how about a 15-week abortion ban? Now, at that point in time, there was a great, I won't say opposition, but there was a great lack of interest in doing anything more on the pro-life cause. Everybody felt like Mississippi had done so much. We'd passed every pro-life bill that came. Every time I would go to the floor, some of the House members would moan because they knew it would be another pro-life bill.
And we had a U.S. Supreme Court that people just assumed was going to strike things down.
We had a liberal majority U.S. Supreme Court, and people were like, why are we wasting our time? So I remember that as I met with our pro-life leaders, and I still am in touch with them here today. They're doing great work at the CPCs and others. Let's get this done. Let's take this step. Will it make a difference? We don't know, but we can do what we can do. And having worked to write that bill with my colleague, Representative Becky Curry, she and I teamed up on this. She was the medical expert as a nurse, and I was the legal expert as an attorney. And so we handled that floor debate as a team. What a great team! And I thank the Lord for Becky Curry and how she was able to answer those medical questions on House Bill 1510. That bill would be the bill that would overturn Roe versus Wade in the United States of America, return that issue to the states where it rightfully should be, ended abortion on demand in Mississippi, closed the last abortion clinic, and protected countless numbers of babies in our state. And I'm proud of that. And I thank God, and I give God all the glory for it, because I wasn't not smart enough to figure out his plan. Nobody knew that those other justices were going to retire and that President Trump would be able to appoint 2 pro-life justices who would hear the case and really make history for the cause of life in Mississippi. And I'm thankful to have been a little part of that.
Mm-hmm. That one's so important. If you're a conservative, if you're not a conservative, we can all agree in the value of human life.
That's right.
And I'm proud of Mississippi that we led the way, put that issue on the agenda for the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And now that the fight goes on,
yeah,
because states now have to answer some of these questions about what it's going to look like. But let me ask you one more question about your time in the legislature. You mentioned that you served for 4 years under Democrat Billy McCoy before Republicans took over the House and now, of course, have a supermajority in the House.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have a lot of people that listen to this on both sides of the aisle. In fact, we have guests on that are on both sides of the aisle. And I'm curious what advice you would have for people, sort of what lessons did you learn having to serve in the minority in those first 4 years, and then maybe what lessons did you learn while you were in the majority?
Wow, that's a great question to ponder. In the minority, I learned how to fight. I learned how to fight and how to stand for what is right. When you know that you're probably not going to have the votes, you're not going to have the success that you want, but it really becomes a matter of principle. Are we going to stand and fight for what we know is right? In our case, as Republicans, we have a Republican platform that I really believe in, and many others believed in. And we were, in the minority in a way that we didn't have any chairmanships or any power to bring bills out, but we could fight on the issues that we knew would make a difference, and for fiscal conservative principles, for social conservative issues. We were a band of brothers and sisters, I will say, I call them blood brothers and sisters. We fought those fights together, even when we knew we wouldn't win. And then we were. Then I would say to those in the minority, be willing to stand up for what you believe in, even when you know you may not win. Somebody's got to speak out for the principles that we believe in, and if we don't, nobody else is. And then becoming in the majority, in the party in control, we I will say made a good faith effort to work with those on the other side of the aisle. There were issues of commonality that we could find and agree on. I was able to personally work on issues in common with the folks on the other side, whether it was public safety or criminal justice or other issues that really affect every family, every policy in terms of the law that people need clarity on. Working together across the aisle where we can find commonality. I think over the years that spirit of working together has faded away, and it's become a more polarized place. As I watch now as Commissioner of Agriculture from the outside looking in, sort of, there is not a lot of common ground being discussed, and not a lot of willingness, it seems, to work across the aisle on the issues that matter. However, in the majority, when you have the elected mandate of the people to lead on issues, you got to be willing to take what's right, with the principles that you fought for when you were in the minority, and then run with them to get them put in place. And that sometimes people don't like that. All right, you've got to lead. You've got to fight for what you believe in, whether you're in the minority or the majority. But if you're in the majority, I think the people of Mississippi expect us to pass, as Republicans, conservative policy, Republican policy. Policies that we say we believe on when we're on the campaign trail ought to become reality when we're in the majority. And no, that doesn't make everybody happy, but that's the way it works in our country and in our state. So I think whether you are in the majority or in the minority, being willing to fight for what you believe in, and when you're in the majority, being willing to get it done, it done.
Well, then you were appointed as Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce.
Yeah.
In a couple of sentences, what does that agency do?
We are the agency in the state of Mississippi that promotes and, where appropriate, regulates the state's largest industry and the consumer protection aspects that come along with that for the good people of Mississippi. Agriculture is the state's largest industry. It is the backbone of our economy. When you look at our value-added aspect of, for example, our state's largest business is poultry. And we have poultry plants all over this state, and the manufacturing aspects that come with processing poultry. It's the biggest part of our economy, really. And so we are always out there promoting our products. The state law that created the Department of Agriculture and Commerce is focused on finding new markets for our products, both here locally and regionally and nationally and internationally. So I've done a lot of work promoting Genuine Mississippi, all right? That is the official state brand of our state. GenuineMS.com is our website. We launched that new brand in 2018, and we're really proud of that because you can find literally whatever you want to buy, grown, raised, crafted, or made right here in the Magnolia State. That's small business people. That's moms and dads. That's grandparents and grandchildren who have proudly created a product in the state of Mississippi that is now offered for sale to the public. And I find that people want to buy local. The buy local movement is something that we have really been a part of here in my administration and others before me as well, promoting our Mississippi products. And international trade is something that I've been involved in a big kind of way. I've been all over the world promoting Mississippi products. I work very closely with the Mississippi Development Authority, which is our state's economic development arm under the office of the governor. And working together, we have found ways to expand markets and bring opportunities here to Mississippi that we wouldn't otherwise have. So promotion of markets and our products is one thing. Then there's the regulatory side of things. And we do have a great regulatory division. I give folks a quick example. When you go to buy fuel, whether it's gasoline or diesel fuel, you're going to see that sticker at that gas pump. 57,000 devices across Mississippi have our Department of Ag sticker on there that says this device has been tested and approved by the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce. So if you have a fuel problem, if you have water in your gas, for example, we know where that device is, and you can call the number on that sticker and we can check it, or if you have a question about it. So we do a lot of consumer protection. Those same stickers you'll find on every grocery store scanner in the state of Mississippi to make sure folks are getting what they pay for, the price is right. We don't set the prices, but we do make sure that things ring up appropriately. Everything sold by weight in the state of Mississippi in a scale. Every scale, as I mentioned, every aspect of the meat counter. When you go to buy meat at a meat counter, the sanitary conditions of that. And so our regulatory work is to protect the people of Mississippi. The there is a role of government, and that role of government in this case is to make sure that folks are getting what they pay for, that it's safe and healthy, and that it is exactly what the customer thinks they're getting. One quick example everybody can relate to: when you go to eat catfish. We have a lot of foreign catfish out there in this country, and we have a law in Mississippi that falls to us to enforce. If you go eat catfish, you ought to see a sign that says U.S. farm-raised catfish. You know you're buying American catfish in that case. Now we have a new seafood law that's doing the same thing. So it's looking out for the people of Mississippi, and I find that folks really appreciate that. We're proud to do that. We do not regulate farmers, okay? That's a common misconception. I get a lot of calls that want people want a list of the farmers that we regulate. We don't regulate farmers. That is a private industry. We do allow for different certifications that farmers can get. For example, we work with a lot of federal partners like USDA. So huge agency in the federal government. I had monthly calls with Secretary Brooke Rollins, and looking forward to continuing working with her on the reforms that the Trump administration is putting in place. We work with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency because we are the agency that registers all the products used in different fertilizers and chemicals that farmers use, and so those are certified. And then we work a great deal with the Department of Commerce and also the trade representatives for international trade federally. So we're very involved with what's happening in D.C., and we look forward. I'm excited about what's happening since Donald Trump went back in the White House. It's a breath of fresh air to have that communication line, and we're working closely. That's more than you wanted to know. But when you see that sticker, you know that our folks have been there, and you can call that number if you have any kind of consumer question about that product.
So how do you think about the role of government in our agriculture sector? We are a long way from just a pure free market where landowners and farmers produce a product and sell it to consumers. There's so much international trade involved. The federal, as you mentioned, USDA, and as you are thinking about your role in Mississippi, do you have a kind of a filter on how you judge what the role should be, what the government role should be in our agricultural sector?
Absolutely. Agriculture is in a state of crisis right now nationwide due to policies that have been put in place that have created, in many cases, an oversupply and too little demand for our local products. We have had trade policies at a federal level that have created for the first time an agricultural trade deficit where we as Americans are purchasing more foreign products than we are local products, local food. That's absolutely ridiculous since we are the breadbasket of the world. We have situations where farmers are compensated to grow certain products. And now here today, we have soybeans, an oversupply of soybeans because we have depended upon China for so many years to buy American soybeans that now China's decided they're going to grow their own soybeans in Brazil. So we have a global oversupply situation. And the Farm Bill, which is federal farm policy, federal agricultural policy, has become a political football that, frankly, hasn't gotten done the last 3 or 4 years, and I don't see how it's going to get done. It is a combination both of welfare benefits, SNAP benefits, and food stamps, and then ag policy that's got risk, reduction, risk management programs, and other things that farmers rely on. And it's so partisan now up in D.C. that I don't see how this bill is getting done. But we had hoped it would get done this year. The margins in Congress are so tight that it doesn't seem to. But I think that the federal government has weighed in so much in terms of our federal ag policy and trade that it's created quite a bit of a crisis. And what I believe is we have to get back to good old-fashioned growing our own food, relying less on foreign countries, having local markets for our products. And it ties right into what the president's working on as far as his Make America Healthy Again, having more local food, more local product. And it ties into our Genuine Mississippi program as well. And value adding our products rather than sending, for example, we grow a lot of cotton in Mississippi. It's one of our top 4 products. Poultry's number 1. Then you got forestry, wood products.
Yep.
You've got, after that, soybeans, corn, cotton, beef cattle. We're growing cotton, shipping it overseas. It's being woven into something, and we're buying it back on Amazon from over there. All of our industries have been offshored, and what I think the president's trying to do, and what I support, is bringing those industries back. The labor market is why they went overseas in a lot of cases, but I think modern technology is going to help bring that back. I know that that's the vision of the president, and it's my vision as well, to bring back processing everything we grow, raise in Mississippi, whether it's soybeans, whether it's cotton, whether it's corn. We can do it right here and have that value-added aspect instead of relying on all these artificial markets and global trade. And it's been just it's been a nightmare for our farmers, and we're going to be talking a lot about that, what we can do differently going forward as we travel the state this year with a strategic planning process that I'll kick off this week.
Well, so do you think the tariffs, Trump's tariffs, maybe starting with Liberation Day back in, what was that, April, have those been helpful? Is that the right approach to how we solve our trade problems?
I want to say that the tariffs did not create this trade imbalance. I want to be very clear about that. There's a lot of talking heads out there, well, Trump's tariffs have done this. No, this was a problem. You can look at the charts, you can look at the graphs and see that the ag economy has been in crisis from a trade perspective for the last 4 to 5 years, and even beyond that. When we created, as a country, we fell into this ag trade deficit situation. We have an oversupply of product, lower prices, farmers are hurting, losing money per acre. President Trump's tariffs are an effort to reset the trade balance in this country. And, I know there's a lot of discussion about, do tariffs work, do they not work? I'll say this, what we were doing before was not working, all right? The trade situation that we had in place where basically China is just cutting us out and we have no market for our soybeans, for example, that's not working. Now, what has happened since the tariff Liberation Day is that President Trump and his trade team have negotiated better trade deals that are going to help our farmers long term. And that's what we have to think about, is how do we expand these markets, grow these markets, get more value for our products, both in international markets but also locally, domestic production. And I'm focused on both of those things. We're not there yet. There are new deals that have to get done, but at the end of the day, I think the president's strategy is very clear: resetting this trade issue, getting it right, and helping our farmers in the long term to have better markets and more access to markets worldwide. We live in a global economy, but I tell folks all the time, we don't need to be depending entirely on that global economy. We need to feed ourselves, and there's a reason we have to start thinking about that in Mississippi. I'll talk about later on.
Well, so you mentioned we have a lot of farmers. We also have a lot that don't farm, and kind of their interaction with agriculture, the place where it touches us is at the grocery store, or where you're buying goods and products. Yeah. How do we get the price of groceries down?
Supply and demand. We need more supply. I'll use beef as an example. We have in this country, America was built on beef, and I'm a proud cattleman myself, and thankful for the heritage that we have as cattlemen here in Mississippi and all over this country. But due to droughts, due to natural disasters for the last several years, and due to, frankly, the retiring of so many cattlemen who just decided to get out of the business, we have a lower beef herd in America than we have had since the early 50s or late 40s. And at the same time as the demand has maintained, people want to buy beef. That demand has not been hurt at all, even despite these big prices. We have to build back our supply of our American herd, beef herd, at the same time as we make sure that these packers, there's about 4 major packers globally and right here in America, and most of them have foreign interests. They're foreign controlled, and they're the ones who are profiteering off of these prices you see at the grocery store. They're middlemen, and the president just announced an investigation into these practices that are really sticking it to the American consumer. But I think it's a matter of, if you want to get prices down, you got to have more supply, and you got to have more local processing, and that's something that we are really focused on at the Department of Ag. In fact, since I've been commissioner, we have tripled our local processing capacity in Mississippi. So you can go buy Mississippi beef raised by Mississippians, processed at the Mississippi processor, without dealing with these middlemen and these conglomerates that are out there sticking it to folks. And I encourage people to do that. Find those local processors near you. Buy local. Support your local farmer, your local product. So yeah, how do you get prices down? You have a good supply, and you are able then to process that locally. What has happened in our country is we are importing so much stuff from Mexico, from Canada, from overseas that we used to grow right here, and we used to feed ourselves. We used to have canning facilities in Mississippi. We used to have our own food production processing right here, and I want to bring that back. I want to bring back vertical integration of everything that we grow and raise so that we can feed ourselves first without dealing with all these middlemen that are jacking the prices up. I think that I support what the president, I know I support what President Trump is doing in bringing back domestic production, and that is going to help us get those prices down as well. At the same time, prices have gone up for all the inputs, fertilizers, feed, and that all happened under Biden's economy, which is another subject for another day. And those items are not seeming to go down in many cases because we don't have the supply of those products here locally. We're relying on someone in some foreign country for a lot of the fertilizer that we bring in. And there's a big move right now to bring that back to America. Let's have America, actually at the forefront of our supply and supply our own demand, and then we will be glad to work with any countries around the world that need excess product. I think that's going to help for the long term.
Well, so let's talk about what's coming up in the next couple of years, and let's talk about that long term. You are the first of probably many to announce that you are running for governor. Why is this the time for Andy Gipson to run and win the next governorship?
It's something that I've been praying about. Leslie and I have we've been married 24 years. Every major decision we have made, we prayed about. Running for the legislature was that one. This ag commissioner role, we prayed about that as well and got a real peace about it. And frankly, we've been praying about this for a number of years. Even before the last governor's election, we were praying about it. And in the last 2 years, we have made it a focus of seeking the Lord and wanting to know, is this something that God wants me to do, us to do as a family? And as I have in times past, I felt the need to get off by myself, me and Leslie, ourselves, and just get away from all the noise. Everywhere I would go in Mississippi, whether it's to the catfish house or to the grocery store, and I've traveled a lot speaking in this role as ag commissioner.
You've been to all 82 counties?
I've been in all 82 counties, more than a few times.
Yeah.
Everywhere I have gone for the last 2 years, I couldn't get away from this. You need to run for governor. We need you to run for governor. We want you to run for governor. I'm talking about not 10 or 20 or 50. I'm talking about thousands of people from DeSoto County to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, from Vicksburg to Meridian. And people have been asking me to do this. And you may wonder why. I wonder why. But I think a lot of it has to do with people understand we need to put our state first and our people first. We need to look out for our people in a way that make it a focus and a priority that we have as state, as a policy. And I'm one who believes in the people of Mississippi, and I have made no bones about it. I've stood and fought for the people of Mississippi in the legislature as ag commissioner, and I think people have asked me to do that because they see that I am a proven conservative leader in this state. So I didn't want the people, though, to make that decision for me, and I didn't want to make it for myself. So we went off, visited my son Joseph out in Montana. I climbed up on a mountain and prayed. 2 days, not day and night, but 2 days worth of praying out there. and came away with a very clear sense that, yes, God wanted me to do this. And it's like God said, do it, and do it now. So I came back and announced that I am running, and I am running for governor in 2027 as a Republican, as a candidate who has not only legislative experience in getting things done in policy, but also executive agency experience. And I think uniquely qualified to lead this state in the conservative direction that we need to go. I'm also a pastor, and I preached every Sunday for many, many years now, and I am in touch with the real people of this state, and I know the issues that people are facing now, the concerns that we have, and I don't ever want to lose that grounding. I call it being grounded to the real people, people with a capital P. The people of Mississippi are in charge. It is the people who will elect the next governor. It's the people who will elect the next ag commissioner and next legislature, and I feel that God is calling me to do this, again, to make a positive difference for the future of this state as governor. And I have ideas on ways we can do that. I know there are things that have not been done that need to get done. There are things that need to be done sooner rather than later for our state and our country's food security, food supply. And I can talk about that if we have a chance to talk about that vision for the future. Yeah.
Well, let's do that. What would be some of the biggest items, the top priorities for your campaign, and then if elected, things that you'd like to accomplish as governor?
Well, one of the first things that I want to make mention of is this role as agriculture commissioner has, I think, uniquely positioned me to understand from the global perspective, from the perspective in Washington, D.C., also here to the local perspective, the critical importance of our food supply. I attended a conference in Wyoming of all 50 state ag commissioners back a year ago, and they told us, the experts from CoBank, one of the world's leading financial lending experts of agriculture and food production, they told us on a map, and I have those slides that show that the food production center of this country for many years has been California, but their water is going away. Their water is drying up. The West is drying up. The Midwest is drying up. And I can show you on a map how they told us that in 20 years, the southeastern United States will be the food production center of America. In other words, because of our water supply, we'll be in a position to feed all of the American people and people around the world. And this is an opportunity that, frankly, has not been a focus in the past. I am convinced that in 20 years' time, we'll be wondering how the folks in California are going to get food. They don't have water. Their aquifers have dried up, and the water they do have, their regulations won't allow them to use. The production is dropping off a cliff, and Mississippi is positioned with our water resources to be a food supply center hub for the entire country. And I want to bring back that level of economic development. And I love all the economic development that we're having, but it needs to be focused, it seems to me, on value adding our greatest industry, which is our farmers, our agriculture. A lot of farmers wondering how to go forward. I think we're going to have an opportunity to really reset the entire agricultural economy, having more local food supply, and abundant food, fiber, and shelter, not only for ourselves, Mississippi first, America first, but for the rest of the country. That's going to be a focus of mine. Another is public safety. Public safety is something, as I travel the state, we have got to get a handle on, y'all. I mean, there are lawless influences that are creeping in from different regions, whether it's north, south, east, or west, gangs and other issues that are coming to the surface, and we've got to get a handle on this. The way you do it is enforce the law. And we've also got to get a handle on our correction system and make sure these folks, when they get back out, they're not actually committing the same crimes again. And we got to reset that discussion. And I'm a guy, having run the state fairgrounds in the city of Jackson, which at that time was the most dangerous city in America. I know how to deal with public safety. I know how to form a task force. I will on day one, to enforce the law, to make sure people are safe in our local communities. And that's something that everybody in Mississippi supports. And then when it comes to to policy at the state level. Just recently, I rolled out my ideas that I've been working on for a number of years now. How to help the people of Mississippi? How do we make the tax situation for the average Mississippian, the family that's sitting around the breakfast table? How do we make that better? And I think one of the ways is to build on the good work that was just started with the phasing out of the income tax. Now, it's not eliminating, but it is phasing out. And I would like to see us do the opposite of what the federal government has done. For years, the federal government has been promoting lack of marriage or people not being married, not getting married. I'd like to see us get an immediate marriage income tax credit, elimination of that income tax, speed up, accelerate that today. I'd also like to see us, as we promote marriage, do things that'll help our families and young people in particular who want to buy a home. We need to reform our property tax situation. It is unconscionable to me that we have no set uniform system of property tax in this state. It's up to each of the 82 counties. Some of the counties are doing a great job managing their property tax levels and keeping those from accelerating. Others are failing at it. And I hear a lot of discussion from a lot of people that this property tax has got to be addressed. I'd like for us to greatly expand our homeowners exemption. That's a first step we can do in a way that holds counties and cities harmless, but it'll do a lot of help for a lot of good for a lot of folks who want to own a home, who do own a home, want to buy a home. I'd like to see us do something to help moms and dads who are trying to raise kids, and it's so expensive. As a parent of four, as the parents of four children, we know, Leslie and I know how expensive it is, how expensive a box of diapers is. And I'd like to see us eliminate sales tax on all those basic necessities for infants and children, things like diapers and formula, for things like basic foods for children, for non-prescription medication. I can't tell you how many thousands of bottles of ibuprofen, children's ibuprofen I've bought over the years. Make it, take that 7% off. Make it easier, make it more affordable. Our young people are trying to get a start in life and trying to get married, trying to have a home, trying to raise a family. And I'd like to see some credits on our car tags as well for marriage and for children for those car tags. We can do some real simple things like that. And these are things I fought for when I was in the legislature and couldn't get any traction with them. But when I'm governor, we're going to get it done on day number one. We're going to get it done. And I'd like to see us enforce the laws on illegal immigration. I would like to see us actually get something done on that, make sure people have a legal path to citizenship here, but make sure they're not getting for example, SNAP benefits from Mississippi citizens. We got to put Mississippi first, and that is my agenda, Mississippi first. If you're a citizen of this state, you deserve to be focused on, and I think those kind of policies that I just described will help us end the brain drain that we have. How do we keep our young people here that want to stay here, that want to get married here, want to have a family here? And how do we have more children? We have policies that will promote those types of activities, and by reducing the tax burden, creating those kind of credits, childcare credits, I didn't mention that one, but a childcare educational tax credit for moms and dads who can make sure they have a more affordable way to continue to work while their children are taken care of. I want to see that done. Let's put the people of Mississippi first for a change, and I think we'll see the benefits of that, and it will naturally build upon the good work that's already started with our economic development, the good work that we want to continue for the next generation.
So there's a lot there that I want to come back to in our remaining time. I want to get to public safety in a minute. But let's dig a little deeper on the family policy stuff. I had a whole episode dedicated to this topic, I think 2 episodes ago, with a national scholar. And one of the things he talked about was, if you care about crime, if you care about labor participation, getting more people working, if you care about education outcomes, if you care about health outcomes, it doesn't really matter. You look at all of the policy issues, so many of those come back to, do you have strong families? Do you have strong, stable marriages, 2-parent homes? The outcome and the opportunity that you give kids when they come from strong families is just second to none.
That's right.
Why do you think that institution is lacks the strength that it used to have. Its marriages have crumbled, families have crumbled, and we see, maybe in Mississippi more than a lot of places, we see broken families.
Mm-hmm. It is a symptom of a broken culture. Our culture has not focused and prioritized the family in a way that we should. As goes the family, so goes the city, and as goes the city, goes the county, and so goes the state and the country. The family is the fundamental basis of society, and I'll say this: you may not agree with me, not everybody, but I believe God designed and ordained that family to be that basis of society, to have moms and dads and children. And when you don't have that, what you have is a generation of young people who grow up without the kind of guidance and support that they have built into their fundamental needs as a person. Fatherlessness, the lack of or absence of fathers in this state and in this country has done more damage to the children of this state and country than probably any other factor. Having a mom and a dad, or at least having a single parent who is there and available, that family unit is so critical to the next generation. If you don't have it, when these children grow up, they are lost and they are without guidance, and they really don't know how to be adults themselves. And that is something we have to get back to, the very basics of how do we strengthen the family unit in Mississippi. It's not something the government can do. I'm not a big government guy, but government does exist to promote good conduct and to punish and deter bad conduct. And so our tax policy should be designed to promote the kind of conduct that will foster good families and healthy moms and dads and children who are learning from their moms and dads. When that family unit is broken, you're going to have a broken society. And I'll tell you, this is an issue that I have found commonalities, talking about working with folks across the aisle. One of the things I get to do, and you might see me on TV with that cowboy hat, is running the state fair and the Dixie National Rodeo. And in those large events, two of the largest events in Mississippi, I get the opportunity to visit with folks from a wide variety of demographics and background. And I can tell you something we agree on. Whether you're Republican or whether you're Democrat, I believe, whether you're Caucasian or African American, is the family is something that needs to be strengthened. And I've found that, and I've heard that, and I have picked up. I've been listening. I'm a believer in listening. You listen, then you learn, and then you can lead. And I think when we as a state get back to strengthening our families and whatever policies we can adopt to do that, we will have a stronger local government, we'll have a stronger state government, and we'll have a stronger economy and culture, and we'll be positioned to help end this brain drain and this crisis of fatherlessness across our state. I will say I'm open to ideas about that too. I don't proclaim that I've got all the great ideas. You may have ideas. Somebody out there listening may have ideas on ways we can help families be families again and strengthen that marriage bond and those children's future. So I'm open to ideas about that. I think we have to make it a focus. There's nothing more important we can do than focus on the health of the family in the state of Mississippi.
Well, so this is an interesting moment. There's a pro-family policy that is bubbling up that the Speaker, Jason White, has said is going to be the top issue this coming legislative session. Our governor has said it's a huge priority, certainly something you supported when you were in the legislature. What do you think about school choice?
I think Mississippians deserve the same rights and freedoms as other states around us have, and I don't understand why it hasn't already been a reality. We're in a situation in this state where, for whatever reason, people have just resisted that and fought that. And it hasn't been the end of the world in places that have it. You look at all the different states that have and have success, and many different ways to do it without hurting the public schools. All right? I'm a product of the public schools. I grew up in Brandon, Mississippi, went to Rankin County schools. I graduated Brandon High School. I thank God for my excellent public school district. Our children have had a variety of backgrounds. And I've learned this: every child is different. Every child learns differently. Every child, having raised 4 of them, every child has unique aptitudes and wishes and desires, and some that they have a little different focus. And so we've actually homeschooled our children, some of them from time to time. We've had that experience. And we have also had children that have gone to a local Christian school. So we've lived it. We hadn't just talked about it, we've lived it. And for the life of me, it doesn't seem right. It is fundamentally wrong for us in Mississippi to be limited on the types of freedoms that the other states have and have had for decades. And finding the right way to structure it in a way that works for Mississippi is the key. Yep. And maybe that's where we are now, finally figuring out how this can be done without hurting, without taking away from public schools, without causing all this fear-mongering that people are so afraid is the end of the world. If you look at the other states that have done it, it's been a good thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to hear what the speaker's proposal is going to be, and maybe this will be the one that'll get across the finish line. We'll see.
Well, it's one of those policies where everybody can agree that parent involvement in education matters immensely, and it matters whether your child is in a public school or private school or charter school or homeschool. We need more parents engaged. And yet there are parents who love their kids, who want their kids to do great things, and find themselves trapped in a setting where they can't afford to up and move to a different school district that maybe would be a better fit for their child, and they can't afford private school tuition, and for whatever reason, homeschooling is not the right fit, and they find themselves stuck. And one of the arguments against school choices I hear often is, we cannot trust parents with something as important as the education of their kids. They're not experts. Yeah. And I think, sure, there are outliers of parents who are either abusive or not good parents, but the vast majority of parents that I talk to across our state love their kids and they want what's best for them. They just need more tools.
That's it. They need the tools, and they deserve the tools that other states do have. We've taken some baby steps with this along the way, and the charter schools that were put in place, but that's not been sufficient to meet the needs of these parents that I talk to out there that wanted a different opportunity than they've had in the past. And I think that 2026 looks like it might be the right time to get it done.
Well, I love your pro-family legislative agenda. I think there's some great ideas on here. One of the things that's interesting about the work that we do, where we have our 3 pillars that are just kind of the 3 areas we focus on: education, work, and public safety. There's a lot of interconnectedness of those 3, and there certainly is a lot of impact on the family, and the family upstream has an impact on those. So let's go back to, you mentioned public safety. And one of the issues I see is we have too many people going into the system, and we have too many people that are coming out that are ill-prepared to re-enter society. Yeah. And in a lot of places, re-entry is almost non-existent. We sort of expect people to do different, to have been rehabilitated, and we have a correction system that doesn't really correct in a lot of places. How do we solve that?
I think it's about, of course, letting the Department of Corrections be the Department of Corrections, and that is to correct this issue. And as inmates go through this system, as they make their way through that system, opening up opportunities for them to actually learn a skill, a workforce, a job, so that when they get out, they can do something with that skill to get a job. I have talked a good bit with Commissioner Kane about this issue, and I know he has a vision to help that. So it's the idea of reentry. I mean, it does nobody in Mississippi any good for someone who's been through the prison system to get out, not be able to get a job, get on welfare, and then they're going back in the same cycle of poverty and lawlessness perhaps. So how do you fix that? You get them, you teach them the skills, and we have a need for that in Mississippi. Our workforce situation is another key focus that I want to have as governor. We need more of a workforce, and a great place to begin is with our inmate population who are coming back into society. They're coming here, they're going to live somewhere, and so when they come out, they need that opportunity to begin again and to have a skill that they can now bring and make a good living and become a good citizen and a taxpayer for that matter. I think that's the sort of policy that we have to have for our population of inmates who are coming back into the system. It's reentry. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, one of those policies that came through the legislature really the last couple of years, it's passed both chambers now in different forms, is the Fresh Start Act. And it's an occupational licensing reform that would say simply because you have a felony conviction, that alone shouldn't bar you from having an occupational license, particularly if you're trying to get a license in something that had nothing to do with the conviction that you received or your sentence you were received. Yeah. And it's simply a belief that we need more people working. One of the best ways to ensure that somebody doesn't go back to prison is that if they can very quickly, when they come out of prison, get plugged into work, using their hands, using their mind to produce a product or service. We, as you said, we need more people working. And the Fresh Start Act would simply say it's not an automatic bar. Let's let those boards and commissions review those cases on a case-by-case basis. You think that's something we ought to do? I do.
I think it's absolutely something we ought to do. And I think it will build upon what the vision Commissioner Kane has. As I visited with him, I'm really impressed at what he has done in terms of helping inmates be a part of faith-based programs, for example, growing in their faith. He's had folks who have gotten out of prison and gone on to seminary. They've actually completed seminary in prison and gone to pastor a church. I met one of them not long ago. So that's an unusual example, but it's the good example to go by. What about someone who could learn to weld? What about someone who could learn to be a processor in a food production plant? What about someone who can add to the need for jobs that we have when we bring these big manufacturing plants to the state of Mississippi? Teaching them a skill is a win-win-win. It's a win for them. It's a win for their families when they come home, and it's a win for the state of Mississippi because they're going to become a productive citizen rather than another drain on our very struggling correction system.
Well, our governor right now, Governor Tate Reeves, as he travels the state, his message lately has been, we have momentum.
Yes.
And honestly, as I look at the state and I talk to people, it really feels like there is some momentum in our state that I haven't seen in my lifetime. As you've traveled our 82 counties, do you agree we have momentum? Where do you see that momentum coming from?
I do believe, and I agree, we have momentum. I see the focus of our governor on economic development. I've talked and worked personally with his director, Bill Cork, at the Mississippi Development Authority, and nobody's working harder to bring more jobs and more industry to this state and opportunities than those folks. And I commend them for what they're doing. That momentum is there. And I'll tell you this, people outside the state have noticed it. I told you I went to visit my son in Montana. I was in the Bozeman Airport in Bozeman, Montana. Struck up a conversation with a fella. He said, "Where you from?" "Mississippi." And this fella who's never even been to Mississippi said, "Wow, you got some great things going on in Mississippi. What's happening?" And the focus is, of course, getting more opportunities for our people here in jobs and economic development, reducing regulations, something we need to do more of in this state. I intend to do more reduction of regulations to make it a friendlier place to do business and a place where Mississippians can stay here, where folks who are graduating from college don't just leave here like so many of them are, but stay here, get married here, have children. If they're not everybody's called to do that, but if they're called to do that, do it. Buy a home, raise your family in what I believe is the greatest state in the 50 states of our United States of America. So our challenge and opportunity is to keep the momentum going, to not fall back, to build on that, to keep passing good policies that will set the stage for the future of this state and for our people, the good of the people with a capital P. It's the people who are in charge, and it's the people who are our greatest asset. The good people of Mississippi deserve us to focus on things like that, and let's keep the momentum going.
Well, you mentioned it earlier about the the food source coming from the South. Beyond agriculture, there is tremendous growth in the South, and you just look at data where people are moving, they're fleeing some of the more radical leftist states like California, New York, and Illinois that are going bankrupt. They're fleeing to the South where there is opportunity, there's economic growth, there is just values that we share. Yeah. And it gives me such hope and encouragement that Mississippi is really starting to participate in that growth and that momentum. Let me close with this question. You have 4 kids. I have 5. Yours are a little bit older than mine. Yeah. But we're in this work because of our kids and their kids and the future that we want for Mississippi, that we are stewards of. If you look into the future 15, 20 years, and Lord willing, your kids are still here, my kids are here, what do you want for them? What do you want Mississippi to look like that would be a place where they stay and my kids stay and a generation of young people stay and build a great life here?
Wow. I think we all want the same things for that future. I think we want a place where, we have the values and we maintain the values that we have as a great state. We are the hospitality state. We love people. We look out for one another, and the values that we have will never change. I think B, a place where they will say, you know what, we got the best school system in America right here, and so many opportunities for their children to go and to be educated and to really tailor their needs to the individual child's needs. I think a place to say, you know what, I've got so many job opportunities here that I think I'll live in this particular region and do this kind of work, rather than being forced to live in a particular place, a region of the state with a particular type of, whatever we've always done here. No, there's so many options of different types of work around Mississippi. You can, if you want to go to the coast and do what's happening on the coast. And this kind of opportunity that our next generation will have will be the best of both worlds, to maintain our values, to have growing and better education, and the kind of jobs that are going to allow them to stay here on and on, raising a family. And hopefully my kids and yours will have grandkids here in the state of Mississippi too. And that is going to be the solution to our brain drain problem.
Well, Commissioner, thank you for your work in the legislature. Thank you for your work at the Department of Ag and Commerce. And whatever the future holds for you, thank you for your leadership for Mississippi.
Thankful for you as well. Thank you for all you do, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. And I'll be seeing everybody out there in one of the 82 counties. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Empower Podcast. To learn more about how you can get involved and we can work together to make Mississippi a place where everyone can rise, go to our website at empowerms.org. Please like or subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you'll be notified of future episodes.